If you've been on YouTube lately, you've probably seen a video that looks a little like this, or this, or this, or these. These are all AI music playlists, and they're ruining YouTube. They're an infestation that refuses to go away, like bedbugs or the Paul brothers. These AI music videos clog up your recommended feed whether you want them to be there or not, and while they're bad for YouTube users, they're even worse for musicians who use YouTube, and might be even worse for YouTube itself. But before we can get into why AI music is so bad, we should probably just start with what AI music actually is. Much like AI art, AI music is music generated by a generative AI software specialized to create music. Basically, you tell a computer to write what you want and it'll give you its best guess. You just plug in your prompt and in a few short minutes, it'll spit out a 2 to 5 minute song based on the prompt you put in. Want lo-fi beats to chill to? It can do that. Want grunge to get high to? It could do that. Want a whole new symphony written to be Beethoven's 10th? Well, it can't do that. Yet. Almost every genre of music under the sun can be recreated with AI at this point, which actually sounds pretty cool, right? Well, it's not. See, just like AI art, AI music doesn't just happen. It's the result of thousands, if not millions of hours of training on music that was previously written by humans. And because of the scope required to do this training, it's done with no permission from the artists. They just use their music. Suno AI and Udio, two of the major AI music generators, claim that they conduct their AI training in a way that abides by fair use regulation. But they also admit that they used every single piece of music available on the internet for their training. Every single piece, from Lady Gaga to the North Korean national anthem to subpar anti-woke Christmas music.
Screw the woke, screw the woke, screw the woke.
It's all been used here for training, and it doesn't seem like it was done in a particularly legal way, since the three biggest record labels in the United States all came together to launch a joint lawsuit for copyright infringement against both Suno and Udio. The case is still ongoing, so we don't know if it will be considered illegal or not, but even if the collection is technically done legally, that doesn't mean it was done ethically, which could be considered an even bigger issue depending on how you look at it. To me, the only way to work with a piece of music ethically in the way that these AIs would is to get permission from the artist who made the music or someone that represents them, as without that, you're essentially stealing their work and then using it to make a competing asset for monetary gain. And there's no way these AI companies went around and got permission from every artist ever, because there's just so many artists. There are millions of musical artists out there that have uploaded music on YouTube and other platforms. It would take years to collect permission from all of them, and I'm sure a lot of these artists wouldn't give them permission at all, which would of course get in the way of the training of the AI. So these tech companies do what they always do, ask for forgiveness instead of permission. And now the same music that was stolen from musical artists is being repurposed and used against them on YouTube. Look at this. This is the YouTube homepage. I'm sure you recognize it. It's probably how you found this very video. If you're someone who posts on YouTube, this page is the most important page to you, as it is how you're going to get 99% of your interactions. And right there, front and center, is an AI music video. There's also a no AI music playlist, but we'll be talking about that later. That space is an extremely valuable space that once would have held an album made by a person or a video game playlist also featuring music made by people. But now, instead, an AI music playlist is taking valuable real estate away from artists, and it has 1 million views. Do you know how many albums don't get 1 million views on YouTube? It's a lot, and a lot of it is great music too. And now, in addition to these artists having to compete with other talented artists, they also have to compete with these AI-generated software that can pump out music at like 100 times the pace that a human can. It's only a matter of time before searching for music on YouTube becomes similar to searching for art on Google Images, where a lot of the top results are just smothered with AI slop. And in case you're curious, this kind of stuff is also happening on other music platforms like Spotify too. So it's not like just using another musical platform is really an option. And even if it was, that shouldn't be the solution. It's sad too, because music and YouTube are super intertwined and have been pretty much since the beginning of YouTube. I mean, the platform's given us so many great songs over the past few years, like Thick of It or Calling Bell challenger's apology video. But seriously, it's been over a decade since the most viewed video on YouTube was anything other than a music video, and a ton of new musical artists got their start on the website. Even people as large as Clairo and Justin Bieber, whether you like him or not, got discovered on YouTube, and they aren't really the only ones. The platform has created so many musicians over the years, and now views that might have been life-changing or created the next industry pop star are being given to music that is written by a computer and to channels that are nothing but content farms. But these AI music playlists could actually be so much worse for YouTube depending on how the aforementioned lawsuit goes. If it is decided that AI music is not fair use and is in violation of copyright law, YouTube will have to do something about AI music in the same way that it had to do something with all other copyrighted material. The solution for YouTube back then was the Content ID system, which has some of the most robust copyright detection abilities on the planet. It is so hard to get any material past this system, to the point that it will often create false copyright claims on videos that it thinks are copywritten but are actually copyright free. This is where the issue arises. Will YouTube be capable of creating an AI detection system that is capable of differentiating between AI generated music and music written by real people if it is forced to in the wake of this lawsuit? AI generated music already sounds kind of close to human-made music, especially in the lo-fi and smooth jazz genres. So people who make music in these genres could get falsely detected as AI, which, if it has the same impact as a copyright claim, could be really negative for the channel. I know this lawsuit hasn't happened yet, but there is a very real possibility that it could reshape music on YouTube forever, and it only came around as a result of AI generated music. If you're curious why I'm talking about just AI music's impact on YouTube rather than AI music and AI art, there are two main reasons. First of all, I'm just more knowledgeable on music than I am on art. I've been writing music for years and I used to play it a lot too, so it's something I consider myself pretty knowledgeable on, especially compared to my artistic abilities. Secondly, I think we take music for granted in an even greater way than we do art. A lot of people can look at a piece of art and think, wow, this looks great. I'm sure the artist is so talented and sexy and hardworking. It probably took them a long time to make. But it's a lot less common when people will listen to a piece of music and say, wow, this sounds great. I wonder how many different iterations of the bridge they went through, or how many tries the vocals took to get just right. I'm sure they're just as sexy though. A lot of people just don't understand the expertise that it takes to make music. The understanding of music theory, the mastery of an instrument, the ability to collaborate with other musicians to make music. It's such a complex craft, but the majority of people just think of music as either something they like or don't like. Most people's knowledge of music start and stops with the piano lessons they were forced to take in elementary school, or the concert band they did in high school to raise their GPA, which is fine. I don't think everyone needs to have an in-depth knowledge of music, and I'm not trying to talk down on anyone that doesn't understand it in this way either. A lot of people, despite their love for music, just kind of take it for granted. I think this stems from an issue that we see very often in visual art as well, where people think the finished product is what makes art special and not the process. It is the human creative component of all art forms that makes it worth experiencing. All art forms are a skill. All art forms take time to be good at, and not everyone wants to put in that time, and that's part of what makes it special. If anyone could create the Mona Lisa, it wouldn't be in the Louvre. If anyone could write Für Elise, we wouldn't be listening to it almost 200 years later. And the same goes for modern art and music too. Sure, it might not have the same clear appeal as these classic pieces of art, but it still holds a lot of meaning, and in a lot of cases, what makes modern art special is the process more so than the finished product. Like Klein Blue, which is just blue but requires a special formula to make due to an unstable pigment, or the Water Concerto, which is a piece of music that literally turns water into an instrument. These pieces of art are all important because of the process behind them, and when you take that process away and give it to a computer, you're pretty much removing the meaning from music and art. I don't want to go too far down the rabbit hole on why it's bad to get rid of meaning in art, because that could be its own separate video, and it probably will be, but basically, art plays a really important role in recording history and our interpretation of history. There are periods of history where there are more art-based artifacts than there are written language ones, and there are periods of history where art is stifled in order to create a certain image of a country or group, in order to alter the perception of country or group and how they're recorded in history. But it's not often that this image control is successful, because artists, both musical and and visual, are able to include artistic interpretations in their works that contradict the messages their leaders are trying to portray. A great example of this is the composer Shostakovich and his relation with Stalin if you want to dig deeper on the specific topic. Anyway, back to AI. One of the arguments Suno and Udio push to appear positive in the music scene is saying that AI music is democratizing music, meaning they're making music more accessible so that anyone can make it. And the thing is, that's just kind of wrong. If you use an AI music generating software, you're not making music. A computer is generating it, meaning that you're not writing the music, and frankly, the computer isn't writing the music either. If you were to ask these AIs to give you a file for FL Studio or Sibelius to look at the music it wrote, it won't be able to. It's not writing anything, it's guessing what you want based on the billions of samples it has. Plus, music is already pretty well democratized. At least music writing is. There's tons of free music writing softwares out there, like Cakewalk or MuseScore, and tons of free tutorials for writing music as well. There's even tutorials for the music writing software, so that's easy to use as well. You don't need some special training to make music, you can just make it. Sure, it might not sound the best at first, but it doesn't have to. As I already stated, I think almost anything a human makes is worth making. So now that we understand what AI music is, you might be asking yourself, how do I identify AI music so I can avoid it? Or maybe you don't care. But if you do, here are a few signs that the playlist you're listening to might be AI generated music. To me, the biggest tell if a playlist is AI music is if the track list or chapters have no musical artists next to them. It's just a bunch of track titles with no descriptions or sources. This of course happens because there is no artist to credit in the first place. Next, I would look for some sort of aesthetic thumbnail for the video rather than a traditional album cover. If you see a video that has one of these styles, there's a pretty good chance it's AI. The most surefire way to tell if a video is AI generated or not is to check the description to see if it is labeled as AI generated. If you see this in the description, you will know for sure that it is AI, but this has to be input by the user themselves, so it won't always be there. I really wish YouTube would make it easier to tell if a piece of content is AI generated. There's no way you should expect your user to go to the description of every video and scroll all the way to the bottom just to tell if it's AI or not. Instead, I think the AI indicator should pop up in a similar way to the indicator for paid promotions. Or maybe AI channels in general should have a specialized badge next to their name in the way verified creators and music channels do, so viewers don't even have to click on a video to know if it is AI or not. Recently, I also noticed some playlists putting no AI in their title so that you don't have to do this investigation yourself, so that's nice. Unfortunately, I think the best way to avoid AI music is to just listen to music that was put on YouTube prior to the launch of AI music software. So prior to December 2023, as music from then literally cannot include AI. You could also put together your own playlists, so that way you know exactly what music you are listening to and you know it's not AI. Plus, almost no one is uploading AI music as individual songs, so there's another way that you can try to avoid them. For the record, I'm not completely against AI in general. I think it can be really useful in some cases. It can be used to detect breast cancer super early into its development, and a ton of tools for people with disabilities have been developed with AI to make their lives easier as well, which is great, and I think AI should continue to be used for these life-saving and quality of life improving purposes. I remember when AI automation was first being talked about, a big part of the appeal was that it would reduce the amount of work humans had to do, and as such, we would have more time to do the things that we enjoy doing. It would allow us to explore hobbies like music and art that we didn't have a lot of time for prior to this next step of automation. But now the first thing being automated is these very same creative endeavors, and it's taking jobs away from people in fields that are already incredibly hard to make it in. And that's not even talking about the negative impact AI is having on our environment. But I think that would be best kept for a general critique of generative AI, if that is something you guys would be interested in. Let me know in the comments down below. Anyway, I think that's pretty much all I have to say on this topic. Thank you for watching as always, and I'll see you next week for another video.